Welcome to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, a doctorate-prepared nurse practitioner, and this show is about empowering you to live a radiant, healthy, and balanced life. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Dr. Mike Van Thielen. Dr. Mike has a PhD in holistic nutrition. He is a doctor of Oriental medicine, a licensed physical therapist, and a licensed acupuncture physician. He is also certified in Chinese herbal medicine and more. He is a faculty member at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and has been a TED Talk speaker. He is a biohacking expert, best-selling author, and motivational speaker. He has been involved in optimal health practices, anti-aging and regenerative medicine, sports performance, nutrition, supplementation, mindfulness, breathwork, for over 3 decades. That's quite a bio here. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
So we have a lot to talk about. You specialize in biohacking. What is biohacking?
Well, biohacking is an amorphous term, and there's many different definitions, but my definition is simple. It's upgrading the body and the mind and upgrading life. From a health point of view, Amy, I would say it's reversing our biological age, but objectively.
And how do we do this?
Well, how do we do this? Well, today we can, I said objectively, so today we can actually make measurements, tests before. We can do gut biome tests, we can do telomere lengthening tests, and then we implement these biohacking strategies. And after 3, 6 months, or a year, we can do the tests again. And for example, if your telomeres, if they are not longer shortening or they are lengthening, that means we actually are reversing our biological age. Because we always talk about our chronological age, our date of birth, right? But that's really not important because we all know that person that's 60 years old and looks 90 and is on 2 pages of medications and it's like the Walking Dead, right? We all know that person, but we also know the 90-year-old that's still playing golf. And so chronological age is really not important. It's what is your biological age? How do you feel? And I believe that with today's technologies and strategies, that even the average person, not just the elite person, can access these strategies and easily live to be 100 chronologically, but more importantly, at age 100, do the things that a 40, 50-year-old does. And that's the quality of life, that's the lifespan, and that's what we're all after, Amy.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. If you say, do you want to live to be 100? Only if I can do what I want to do.
That's what everybody says, right?
Exactly. We don't want to age sick. We want to age healthy.
Correct.
So do you do a telomere test? How do you do that?
Telomere test is just a blood test, yeah.
Okay.
A DNA test, yeah.
Okay. And then you take those results and does it help lead you to specific interventions?
Not really. It just shows you that certain interventions are working or not,
Okay.
right? So as a biohacker expert, when I get clients, whether they are top entrepreneurs or whether they're top athletes or whether just your average person that wants to live longer, I gotta have 3 classifications. The first one is basically people that need to regain control of their health. So if they're overweight, if they're in pain, or if they are diagnosed with a medical condition, the first thing we need to do is, guess what, is regain control over their health and get back to quote unquote normal, because they're below normal, right? So we need to eradicate that disease, that's pain, get rid of that extra weight. Once we're back to normal, stage number 2 is we need to get to optimal health. So now we need to incorporate lifestyle modification so people feel energetic and they have mental clarity and they feel like they're on top of the world, like a top athlete, right? And then the third stage is biohacking. That's where we're really going to reverse the biological age. But we cannot just, if we're sick or we're in a compromised situation, those biohacking techniques are really not going to work because our body is in a survival mode. It's in flight and fight, and it's trying to put out fires. So it's really important to guide people through those stages before actually the biohacking technologies will, have a positive effect, right?
Yeah. I love that it starts with lifestyle. I think that's so overlooked that it starts with what we eat, how we move, how we sleep.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts. People are always waiting for that magic pill, right? You told me before we started that besides the bioidentical hormones, you also do weight loss, and
Yeah.
people are always going to that next fad and that next diet. And most of these, weight gain problems are inflammatory problems. It's the
Right.
body that's in a flight or fight situation. So we got to focus on health. And if we get our body in balance and in homeostasis, then the weight will shed itself as a side effect, right? And we don't have to worry about regaining it. But people always want that shortcut, always want that magic pill, and that just doesn't exist.
It does not. Is there a specific eating strategy that you like for your clients and for yourself?
No, I mean there's so many diets and things out there, right? So I think just like yourself, Amy, you kind of customize
Right.
based on the client. Of course, I have mine opinions, just like other doctors have their opinions, but I believe we need to eat as close as we can to Mother Nature, obviously,
Hmm.
and have a balanced diet and try to avoid all the man-made products. And that's just one simple thing that we all know, but that we don't do, right? And I also believe in a few other principles. I believe we eat way too many times in a day, even if it's 3 times or 2 times. I believe we only should eat once a day because our biology and physiology, our digestive system is only designed to eat once a day. The Greeks, the Romans ate once a day. Jesus, Moses ate once a day. All the animals in the wild only eat once a day because we're designed to do that. But obviously, the propaganda and the marketing make us want to eat breakfast, and they say it's the most important meal in the day. For me, it's the least important meal in the day. Because if you have a good meal in the evening and you digest that meal before you go to sleep, during deep sleep, as you know, that's where we repair, regenerate,
Right.
renew, right? And then we get up in the morning and we have all the energy that we have because we repaired, we recuperated, we regenerated, and we have all the nutrients from that nutritious dinner that we had. So why would we now eat breakfast and burden our digestive system again? Doesn't make any sense. And many times I tell people, if you work 8 to 5 at your job and you go for a big lunch, how do you feel when you go back to work in the afternoon?
Terrible.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because all your energy needs to go to digestion. So to me, for example, breakfast is the least important meal of the day, right?
Interesting. I've been reading a lot about intermittent fasting, but also fasted workouts. So you get up, let's say you work out in the morning.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of evidence that shows that working out before you have anything in your system is actually, you'll get better results from that.
Yeah, I do it all the time. They always say, don't go running or swimming after you eat, and there's something to it because yeah, digestive system
Mm.
takes up so much energy. So if you really want to have a great workout where your energy goes to the workout, then your digestive system shouldn't be working at the same time.
Hmm. Do you find as people get older that they have to kind of change up that strategy a little bit?
As in eating more, or
As in when they eat?
well, again, according to my philosophy, and putting that philosophy in today's society, I would suggest everybody eats early evening, 5 o'clock, six
Hmm.
o'clock. Because based on what you eat, there's a certain transition time. In other words, it takes a long time for foods to digest. If it's fruit, it's maybe only 20 minutes. If it's carbs, it could be an hour or two. But if it's meat, it's up to 6 hours. Then it's fish or shellfish, it's up to 8 hours. So let's average, let's say, 4 or 5 hours for digestion
Hmm.
to complete. So we don't want to eat too late or snack while we're watching TV or winding down to go to sleep because again, we can't get into a deep sleep if our digestive system is still working. So I recommend early evening so digestion is done when you go to sleep. So now you can get into a deep sleep because your body is no longer working and now it can focus on repairing, recuperating, renewing, and etc. And so that's what I suggest. So I like the idea you mentioned fasting of the intermittent fasting is have a window of like 6 hours during the day where you eat and the rest you're basically fasting. Yeah, I like that.
Do you feel that people have to get used to that way of eating? Or,
Well, yes, it's a habit, right?
mm,
The problem is with us, we are addicted to food. It's not regarded an addiction, but we certainly are. And I think there's a big confusion between hunger and appetite, right? We cannot distinguish between those two anymore. For example, let's say you have a big breakfast and you go to work and somebody brought in donuts and you smell the warm Krispy Kreme donuts. Most people are going to grab one. Are they hungry? No, they just had breakfast, right?
right.
So we really have a problem distinguishing between appetite and hunger. And that's kind of something that takes a few weeks to realize and to work on. And I think also if you eat bad food like that donut that we just
Yes.
mentioned, um, after you eat and it's digested, you're going to be hungry again because the body is looking for certain nutrients like vitamin C, omega-3, etc. So if you don't provide the body with those nutrients and they can't get those nutrients to digestion, it's going to send the hunger signal again. So the worst you eat, or if you eat bad food, you're always going to be hungry. But like myself, if you take high quality supplements, if you juice and if you eat rather healthy, then you don't have to eat as much because your body gets the nutrients it needs and it's not going to send out that hunger signal on a constant basis,
Kind of
basically.
quality
Yeah,
over quantity.
that's right. Always.
So you've mentioned sleep a couple times. Are there certain things you do besides the eating timing for to address sleep?
Yeah, I mean, we like to call it in our circle sleep hygiene, right? So we got to find a formula for our clients and ourselves to get into a deep delta sleep and get enough REM sleep, because that's where our body does that recovery, regeneration, renewal, and repair. So, we work with clients to kind of get what I call a power routine. So I have a morning routine, evening routine, a dream routine, and a biohacking routine, right?
Wow.
But we're talking about the evening routine, and so we gotta figure out what works for you so you can get in deep sleep. And to give a few examples, the first one we already discussed: don't eat or snack too close to your bedtime because then you're not going to be able to get in deep sleep because your body's still digesting. Another thing is a lot of people are worrying, right? Their mind is going, oh, I gotta go run, drop my kids off here. I gotta go
Hmm.
pick this up. I have a meeting. I don't even know what I'm gonna say because I'm not prepared. And so your mind keeps going 1,000 directions when you're finally down in bed. And so, in order to avoid that, what I do is I do a 60-second visualization before I go to sleep. So I visualize my next 24 hours, and at each point of contact, I make the right decisions and I know what I'm going to do. So by doing that, when I go to bed, I don't have to worry about the next 24 hours because I already made those decisions and I already know what I'm going to do. And so that helps me wind down my mind when I go to bed.
Right. That's fabulous because everybody has a minute. So you take
That's
that
right.
minute and get it all out now, and then it's sleepy time. So what do you do after that minute? What do you do?
Well, no, it's a whole routine. First of all, I make sure that after a certain time, and usually for me it's about 7:30, that I don't do any business anymore. No more phone
Hmm.
calls, no more emails, because you need to start winding down. I try not to watch TV, especially not stimulation. We want to wind down, so you don't want to stimulate, right? You could read something. You could do a podcast if you want to learn something.
Hmm.
I think those are good things. And then slowly, again, we like to do, my girl and I, we like to do either some breath work or some meditation. And then, we brush our teeth, drink some water, and do our visualization and go to sleep. Yeah. So it's kind of a routine. And sometimes you got to kind of modify certain things until you know, oh, this works. I fall asleep quickly. I have a deep sleep and I feel wake up rested. And that's the key, right? You don't have to even measure this. If you feel up ready to go, guess what? You had a good sleep. But unfortunately, most of us, they go like, I wish I could stay in bed longer. I still feel tired. I don't want to get up. And that means you need to work on that sleep hygiene and that routine before you go to sleep.
Right. I think it's great that you found the routine that works for you. I think we all need to do that just because sleep is something that most of my clients aren't getting enough of, or at least not the right
And
quality.
lack of sleep accumulates quickly day
Yes.
after day. And that's the problem. That's why most people don't have the energy. They feel fatigued all the time, all day long.
Yep.
So, yes, it's about nutrients, but it's really finding a way to get that recovery during the night.
I'm going to have you hold that thought. We're going to pause for a break from our sponsor. You're listening to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, and my guest today is Dr. Mike Van Thielen. Before the break, we were talking about various aspects of biohacking. So, what are some of your top biohacks?
Well, that's a good question, Amy. There's many biohacks, of course, and again, biohack is how to upgrade the body and the mind. I would say today, and a lot of people may be surprised. Number one is learning to breathe
Mm.
properly. So it's breath work would be number one. Number two, I think people should look into molecular hydrogen. And I think in the biohacking world right now, I think NAD plus
Mm-hmm.
is one of those supplements. You can also get it in IV that is very popular because it helps with cellular regeneration, mitochondrial function, epigenetics, etc. So those are kind of the top three, I would say. But I'm really involved in breathwork now because it's cheap, because we always have our breath with us. And if you learn to properly breathe and if you get engaged in breathwork, you can change your life.
How does breath work change your life?
Good question. Well, first of all, I think there's many benefits to breathwork, but to start, especially for the listeners, most of us don't even know how to breathe
Mm-hmm.
because we're what we call mouth breathers or chest breathers, right? And so the mouth is actually designed to talk, which we're good at, and it's also designed to eat. But the thing in the middle of our face, the nose, is actually designed to breathe. So a normal breath, and most people will be surprised to hear this, is 5 counts in through the nose and 5 counts out through the nose. So we don't use the mouth. Now, the reason why we breathe in through the nose is because in our sinus cavity, there's actually nitric oxide. And so when we breathe into the nose, we capture that nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, which pushes that oxygen much deeper into the lower lobes of the lungs, into our tissues and in our cells. And our nose also is smaller, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
smaller passageway, so it forces that, it's more pressure and forces it deeper into our tissues. And then we exhale through the mouth. But think about this, Amy. If we breathe in 5 counts in and 5 out, we're only going to take about 5.5, 6 breaths per minute. Right now, most people breathe in 16 to 20 times through the mouth.
Right.
So it would increase our efficiency by 300%. And that's why I think it's one of the number one biohacks, because you will be much healthier if you
Mm-hmm.
increase oxygen efficiency, and you will live much longer because there's something that's called CO2 tolerance. Because everybody thinks, oh, oxygen is the most important to live. Of course, we need oxygen. How long can we hold our breath without oxygen? Not too long, right? But oxygen is not going to be absorbed if there's no exchange with CO2.
Right.
In order for oxygen to get into the cells, there needs to be exchange with CO2. So I'm here to say that CO2 is probably the most important gas or molecule in our body, because if we increase our tolerance to CO2, we increase the oxygen efficiency and live much longer. So how do we increase CO2 tolerance? Is basically holding your breath. So many times we in breath work we do breath holds. We can hold our breath after we exhale. For example, in box breathing, which many people may have heard of, we inhale 4 counts, we hold our breath 4 counts, we exhale 4 counts, and then we hold again 4 counts. So between in and exhalation, we have breath holds, and that's how we increase the tolerance of
Mm-hmm.
CO2 in our body, right? And that's how we increase oxygen efficiency. So for the listeners, start to just practice, even if you're driving. It doesn't matter where you are, you always have your breath with you. Start to breathe in through the nose 5 counts, out through the nose 5 counts, and get comfortable with that. So I think the first benefit would be increasing your health and living longer, longevity, if you learn how to utilize that oxygen properly. The other thing is most of us live in what we call a flight or fight. We're always in
Mm-hmm.
sympathetic, right? We're always stressed, we're anxious, and that's the majority of people in today's society. So the breath is the only part of the autonomic nervous system that we can control, right? Autonomic nervous system meaning our heart, digestion. It works by itself. We don't have to think about it. We breathe without thinking about it too, but we can control it, right? We can alter it. So with our breath, we easily can go from a stressful situation, flight or fight, back to our parasympathetic system, which is rest and digest. If you're too long in sympathetic, you're going to create disease.
Absolutely.
If we get into parasympathetic, that's where we heal, right? So, with a simple breath, people can go from sympathetic to parasympathetic. You simply need to exhale longer than you inhale. For example, you're going to inhale through the nose for 3 counts and exhale through the mouth for 5 counts. And if you do that just a few times, you're automatically going to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So,
So,
the breath is the bridge between all the nervous systems.
so when you're under a stressful situation, so you're driving, someone cuts you off, you feel your heart rate go up, you do that technique where you do the breathing, and that's going to
Mhm.
bring it back down and allow you to
Very
Move
quickly,
on.
usually in 3 to 5 breaths, your nervous system shifts from that sympathetic into that parasympathetic, from stress to calm.
Right. And that's
Correct.
something really simple somebody could
Yes.
do right there in the moment.
Yes. Or when your boss yells at you, or somebody
Ooh.
says something, just walk away, do a few of those breaths,
Mhm.
and don't let it affect you. You can go from a stressful situation back to a restful situation.
Absolutely. I can feel that. Most of our clients are awesome at Amethyst, but once in a while, there's something difficult I have to deal with, and
Hmm.
I feel my heart rate go up. And so I take a moment and I do that, just like, okay, okay,
Yeah,
and then bring it
exactly.
back down, and
Yeah.
then you can deal with things a little.
We humans, animals cannot do this, but we are in control of our nervous system. We are in control of our central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and somatic nervous system. And the breath is the bridge between all those nervous systems.
Mhm.
So there's techniques that you should look into and learn, because you can control the vagus nerve and all the nervous systems. So that would be the second purpose or benefit of breathwork. The third one is going a little bit deeper, because we can actually release trapped emotions that are in our body. Most of us, from childhood, from things that happen to us, and when we say trauma, most people think, oh, it needs to be something major. No, trauma could be something like you were in fifth grade or in third grade, and the teacher asked you a question and you didn't answer it right, and somebody laughed at you,
Mhm.
right? So we don't perceive that as a trauma, but our subconscious are gonna, you know, attach a belief system to that, and there's going to be a program running in the back of your mind that's going to kind of basically form your habits and form your character and personality as you grow up. And so what we can do with breath work is we can release trapped emotions in the body. Right now in conventional medicine, we go to what? We go to a psychiatrist or a talk
Mhm.
therapist, and we talk things out. And we can talk about those events and traumas for hours and hours and hours, but it's not going to make anything better unless we release the emotion that's attached to that memory, right? Many times we make it worse because we're reliving the trauma, and
Mhm.
we basically get addicted to that emotion. That's why we want to tell our story all the time, right? It's kind of an addiction to that bad emotion. But neuroscience now shows that 50% of the story that we tell is just made up, because our prefrontal cortex does not communicate with our limbic system, where the emotion is stored. And so we don't have the facts, and we make up a story that we believe, but it's not 100% true. And then we relive that story that's not even our true story. And so what we need to do is we need to stop going to those talk therapists, in my opinion. And we need to, because that's a top-down approach, meaning, using the mind, which has many, many filters to try to get to a solution. What we need to do is what we call somatic release, or somatic therapy, or somatic breathing. Soma means body.
Mhm.
With the mind, we can suppress many memories and many things, right? But our body has all that information. Our body doesn't forget. So with somatic breathing, what we do is we activate the oxygen in our body. We have the emotions coming to the surface, and then we release those emotions without having to reliving that trauma or that past. So we do a lot of somatic breath work to release emotional trauma that frees up a lot of energy and space in people's body. So that will be a third application.
Does the person have to know what the trauma was?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Many times, what happens is, and we just had a session in Ormond Beach, like this past Sunday, and we'll almost have them every week. People don't know, but they love it because we don't have to relive it. We don't have to go by it. We just are doing the breath work. And then they may just cry, they may laugh, they may just be peaceful, they may just scream
Okay.
it out, whatever it may be, whatever the body tells them to do. But it comes with an enormous relief because the emotion's gone. See, if you have a memory without the emotion, that's wisdom. But if you have a memory with an emotion, that emotion is toxicity in your body,
Mm.
right? And so there's survival loops that run in your subconscious mind all the time that override your conscious intentions. And so many people are stuck in a vicious cycle in life. And in order to get out of that, we need to release those emotions.
So would you say anybody who's maybe not achieving what they want in their lives should go to a breathwork workshop and kind of explore that?
I would say yes. I would say yes for sure.
Well, good. Well, how do we find these workshops?
Well, I have a company called Limitless Lab. So my website is limitlesslab.live, Live, and you can go to the 90 breathwork page. And so we have in-person workshops and in-person journeys, as we call them. But we also have those online through Zoom, so people all over the country can join us.
Wonderful. I think everyone should check that out. And also on your website, you've written many books. So I was able to check out a couple of them, but I think people should check out your books too, because there's so much that we didn't talk about today and we'll have to bring you back for another episode.
That sounds good, Amy.
Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. If there are topics you would like to hear about, please send an email to radiantpodcast2025@gmail.com. Check out past episodes on Amethyst Wellness YouTube, and please like and subscribe. I'll be back next Saturday morning at 7:30 with more expert insights and practical strategies to help you live your healthiest and most energized life. Until then, stay healthy, and here's to your best life.